So Thor: Love and Thunder is coming out next year, I guess, and I'm really excited for it. And I haven't done an MCU related video in a while, so this is a nice change up for me because I've been doing mostly DC content for a while and haven't done much Marvel related stuff in a while. So today I'm going to be running over the cast that we know of so far for the next entry in the Thor films. So of course, the title character himself, Thor, Chris Hemsworth, is of course returning to play the titular character. Now, in terms of what Thor's probably gonna look like in terms of appearance in the film, I think we're probably gonna go back to regular MCU Thor, like in terms of like muscular MCU regular Thor, because I think the whole Fat Thor thing in Endgame was kind of just a one-off thing to show how he changed after the time jump in Endgame, and now that the events of Endgame have officially ended, Thor doesn't need the fat belly anymore, and he's no longer depressed because, well, there's a dead Mad Titan who's probably dusted by now. Well, he got dusted at the end of the film anyway, so yeah. Chris Hemsworth is a really great actor, and he is one of my favourite characters in the MCU, Thor that is. And Hemsworth is a very comedic actor, and I have to admit, some of the comedic moments in Ragnarok mostly came from Hemsworth for me because he was that funny. Of course, some of them came from Hiddleston and Waititi, but yeah, Hemsworth is returning. Okay, next up we've got Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie. She's reprising her role from Ragnarok and Endgame because she appeared in that film. Albeit briefly, but she was still there. At the end of Avengers Endgame, Thor went off to space with the Guardians, and Valkyrie was made Queen of Asgard, or King of Asgard, or whatever Thor said. And Valkyrie is a really interesting character. Some rumours have suggested that she's going to be looking for her queen in the MCU, which is really good and represents the diversity in the MCU. And with the LGBT character in the Eternals, I think that's going to be some really good diversity for the LGBT community in the MCU. Anyway, Valkyrie being back in the films is a great idea. Valkyrie's a great character and Tessa Thompson's a fantastic actress. Right, next up we got Natalie Portman returning as Jane Foster. Now, I think I know what you're all thinking. Those of you who probably watch the MCU and probably watch Ragnarok say, I'm sorry, but Jane Foster and Thor broke up after Ragnarok, or before Ragnarok, but that doesn't make sense. Shut up, you comic book nerds, or those of you who don't pay attention to the MCU. This is a big deal, because not only is Jane Foster returning, she's gonna become Thor! And for those of you who keep up with the Marvel Comics, you'll know that there's a point in the comics where Thor becomes unworthy, and he can't lift Mjolnir. And Mjolnir actually ends up getting stuck on the moon until somebody mysteriously lifts it, and it's revealed to be Jane Foster. See, at this point in the comics, Jane Foster is actually suffering from breast cancer, which is incredibly depressing. And whenever she becomes Thor, all the toxins and all the chemotherapy drugs get purged from her body, so she's essentially starting her chemotherapy cycle over and over again whenever she becomes Thor. And that's also another incredibly depressing part. Now, to see Jane Foster as Thor in the MCU is going to be a really interesting idea. When asked if Jane Foster was going to be the female Thor, Taika Waititi responded saying, no, she's going to be the mighty Thor, which is pretty interesting. And apparently, Waititi is drawing some inspiration from the Jason Aaronson run of the Thor comics, in which Jane Foster is actually Thor. So this could be pretty interesting. In terms of what Jane Foster's going to use as a weapon, I'm very certain we could see a new version of Mjolnir, and it could be like the old version. Don't ask me why, it's just a feeling, but the main reason being, Natalie Portman lifted a Mjolnir prop at Comic-Con, so that has to at least mean something. And I bet a lot of the comic book nerds are thinking, but why can't just Thor give Jane Foster Stormbreaker? Well, the thing is, according to the Endgame directors, Joe and Anthony Russo, apparently Stormbreaker doesn't require anyone to be worthy. Thor crafted that without the enchantment of Odin. Mjolnir was crafted from the heart of a dying star, and Odin put an additional enchantment on it to ensure whoever was worthy could lift the hammer, so those who were unworthy could not lift the hammer. It wouldn't budge a bit. However, there are a certain few people who can lift the hammer, and obviously we know as of Endgame, Cap's worthy, and obviously Thor is as well, and yeah, that would be cool. Okay, next up we got Christian Bale as the villain. And no, he's not wearing hockey pads.
I'm not wearing hockey pads.
Yep, Christian Bale's going to be part of Thor Love and Thunder. Now, it has been confirmed by Tessa Thompson, of course Valkyrie, that Christian Bale is going to be officially playing the villain in the film. Some rumours have suggested he could be playing Gorr the God Butcher, and he's a very interesting character from the comics. In the Marvel comics, Gorr the God Butcher, as his name suggests, well, he butchers gods. And, fun fact, in the Marvel comics, he's the reason behind why Thor becomes unworthy, because there's a storyline, I think it was Original Sin, or it was a later storyline, where someone whispers in Thor's ear, and I quote, "Gorr was right." And that's what makes Thor unworthy. Mjolnir shoots off onto the moon, and Thor becomes unworthy. Then he takes upon the name Odinson. However, we don't have time to get into any comic book storylines right now. So, Gorr the God Butcher is an interesting villain because, as someone who doesn't traditionally read the newer versions of the Marvel comics, this is quite interesting. So, I'm going to be doing a bit of research on the villain for the film. That is, if Gorr the God Butcher is going to be the villain. And I'll be prepared for when I see the film. That's if it doesn't get delayed due to the whole panic over this virus in the world right now. And next up, Taika Waititi, director and writer of the film, is returning as Korg.
Piss off, Ghost!
Anyway, Taika Waititi is a great director and a great actor. Ragnarok was a great film, in my opinion. There probably are a few people who don't really like Ragnarok, though that may be a very tiny number of people. Anyway, Korg is probably one of the funniest characters in the MCU, and I have to say, the new Master 69 thing in Endgame was pretty funny. All I can say is Taika Waititi is a great director and has a great sense of humour. I can't wait to see Korg return in the next film. Okay, next up is the Guardians of the Galaxy. Wait, what? Okay, time to do a bit of explaining here. While promoting his newest film, Bloodshot, I wonder how that went down. Vin Diesel seemingly confirmed that the Guardians of the Galaxy are going to be making an appearance in Thor Love and Thunder. Now, I do not expect the Guardians to have a major role in the film. Nothing has actually been said about the Guardians' role in the film. Chris Pratt did deny that Star-Lord was going to be in the film. However, Vin Diesel confirmed that... Well, he actually confirmed two things. Firstly, Guardians were going to be in the Thor 4 movie. Number two, that Groot will be growing into Alpha Groot, who apparently is larger than the Groot from Guardians. The first one, that is. Obviously not the second one. Well, obviously the second one, but you get what I'm talking about. Anyway, the Guardians being in Thor 4 is actually pretty good, because it shows that the characters are crossing over into each other's films. That was a problem that some people had with Phase 2 of the MCU, because now that the Avengers and everyone knows each other, why do they not show up in everyone's films? I'm gonna make another video on that, so don't worry about it. Anyway, the Guardians showing up in Thor Love and Thunder is great. I can't wait to see them on screen. And hopefully Taika Waititi knows how to use the Guardians as well, though I have a feeling he's going to be getting some input from James Gunn on this. That is if James Gunn has actually helped out as well. So another thing I want to talk about and possibly address is if Loki will possibly make an appearance in the film. I would definitely like to think so, and here's why. It has been confirmed that the Loki Disney Plus show is going to tie into Doctor Strange 2. This is, of course, the second of the Disney Plus shows to tie into Doctor Strange 2, the other, of course, being WandaVision. Now, in terms of what we're going to see Loki do in the Doctor Strange 2 movie, I'm not actually sure, but this could bring the Disney Plus TV show version of Loki to the main MCU timeline, which would mean we get to see Loki alive. Well, a lot of people are going to say, it's not the actual Loki from the original MCU timeline. This is a different version of Loki from another timeline where he is completely evil. Yes, I understand where you're coming from, but Loki kind of showing up cheapens his death in Infinity War just a little bit. I mean, sure, the multiverse is an easy way to get anyone out of any situation. I mean, it totally worked for the Arrowverse. So that brings an end to our video on the Thor Love and Thunder cast. Let me know if I missed anything out. I'm fairly certain I've missed something. And tell me, are you excited for the film?
Oh yeah!
Yes, thank you, Kool-Aid Guy. Anyway, make sure to tune in for some of our other videos that are coming up soon, and stick around. I'll see you soon, guys.